There ended up being a scene that was just so profoundly dark, I just could not continue writing it. I had to stop. And I had to look into myself and be like, hey, man, what's going on here, bud? You okay up there? Are you... Of course I am. I don't know, man. Like, me saying that don't even sound genuine. It's like freaking me out. Like right now, like I'm worried. Like I'm freaking myself out. But then I look at my actions. I look at who I am as a person. And I look at my writing. And a lot of my writing is to send a message. There's a lot of philosophical themes. Especially in Act 1 and Act 2. I want people to think a certain way. And I don't want to force it on them. I want them to think for themselves about looking into the perspective of others. The messages that I'm trying to convey to people is to get them, it's to teach life lessons, stuff that I learned when I was growing up, stuff that I wish everyone else knew. And the most important themes to remember is that most conflict arises from a misunderstanding from another's perspective, and we tend to assume the world is evil and that most people do things out of, villainous, nefarious intent. That's usually not the case. And a lot of people who do things that seem very blatantly nefarious is typically out of self-defense in their own mind. They justify what they're doing. They think that what they're doing is right. Not in every scenario. There are people out there who are sadistic. Those people are genuinely bad people. They have the intent to cause harm to another because they like to see people suffer, and it brings them pleasure. Those are the type of people, but those types of people are rare in congruence to, the majority of the population. So my goal here is to show people and, showcase people certain elements in life that we typically, tend to underlook. There are things we expect everyone to be perfect. And it's like that's never going to be the case in every situation. Someone might say something to you, it might come off the wrong tone, and now you immediately think, oh man, what a shit person, or man, that wasn't very nice of them. They could be having a rough day, or they could have just, it could have just been the way that they talked in that moment in time, and they could be thinking to themselves, well, man, that was embarrassing. I probably shouldn't apologize about it, though, because if I do, then it's going to make it weirder. And that's typically how things do happen. Not always, of course, not always. And, we as human beings, we struggle to communicate because language was created by us. It wasn't inherited inside of us. Language was taught to us. So the way that we communicate, we read certain cues, we hear certain vocal tones, and that's how we read, oh, okay, they're upset with me, even if they're not, or something else, or you think someone has a creepy intention or something. That also gets misread a lot of the time. And it is very fascinating, and it's also very scary. If everyone was able to live and, think for themselves and think like, hey, this person has a perspective that I'm not holding right now. And, maybe I'm just assuming when I shouldn't make an assumption. If we come to those types of conclusions, we can live in, I don't know the correct word, but things will ultimately end up without having any negative affinity to it, or animosity, or any intention of any sort. And it's very fascinating. A lot of situations also happen out of desperation. People will do bad things in order to obtain some type of goal. And that is also another thing, too, that you can't really justify. To some degree, you can, but not always. Only unless you are in that person's shoes. If it's happening to you, you're not going to justify that to your own right. People use people a lot. It's actually something that happens a big amount of time. People use people without realizing that they're using people. And when it gets brought to them, they become defensive, not because they're aware of it and they don't want you to know that they're aware of it. They get defensive because they don't believe it. They don't believe, that they're using you. And so it doesn't make them dumb, right? they're incapable of seeing this barrier that you're able to see through. That barrier is blocking them out, so they can't see what you can see. And what I'm trying to do in my book is I'm throwing real people in here. And well, not real people, you get what I mean. Like, when you're reading it, these people are going to feel real. That's what I mean. You're going to be able to relate to a lot of them in different ways. You're also going to be able to dislike them a lot in different ways. And I'm going to throw like little like twists in that like showcases. I can't say twist because twist really isn't the correct word. It's not like some goofy over the top thing that I'm showing to you. No, I gradually show it right to your face in order to teach, in order to educate you, while making it entertaining all the way throughout. Their perspective of the story, perspective of what happened and how they feel on certain things. But it's not about people's feelings. This whole book isn't going to be based on that. That's not what it's about at all. In fact, that stuff hardly gets mentioned. But through their actions, their body language, the way that they speak, and the things that they do, I'm going to be able to showcase that mentality, that mindset, and the consequences of misreading things and making assumptions, and what happens when you allow your ego to take over. And I'm also going to prove how important it is to have a big ego, because that stuff is what makes people, it drives them to do things, because they don't, for their own self-pride and for how others view them, they don't want that stuff to be destroyed. So they're also going to do good things. But sometimes if someone's ego gets attacked, they could do things that come off as malicious, but ends up being self-destructive to both themselves and then destructive to the person that they're doing things to. And it showcases how allowing your ego to make the choices for you, if you're not controlling them, also sets you back further in life. And much of what I want to accomplish here is simply life lessons through pure, realistic entertainment. And when I say entertainment, I mean you're watching it, you're reading it, and you're enjoying what you're reading. It's all satisfying. There's going to be moments that you hate, and you love to hate it. You're going to be like, man, I really don't like this character, but I can't stop reading about him. I don't know what it is. Like, I just hope something happens to him. And then you'll be like, oh man, well, kind of got attached to him now. Kind of like him now. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to make of this. I'm gonna make really good female characters too. Big thing that really ticks me off when I'm reading books. I don't really read that much, which is ironic considering that I'm writing. When I'm looking at a movie, when I'm looking at TV shows, how many well-written female characters are out there? Seriously, think about it. There is not enough. Like, when you think about who are the top 10 best actors, who are the top 10 best characters in fiction, unless you force yourself to think of a female character, force yourself to pull one out, very rarely will people be able to think of female characters off the top of their head. And that kind of irks me. It doesn't make me feel like, oh, hey, let me force a female character in here. Let me write a good female character and place it in. No, I'm going to write a good character that happens to be female. That's how I'm going to do it. And the thing is that this character, and see, the delivery of my words right there wasn't as well framed as it could have been. Therefore, I made a mistake because I'm human. So I'm showcasing some examples while talking. Pretty cool. Not really. Anyways, continuing on. So I want every female character in my story to feel real, make them feel relatable to certain people, not to others, and relatable in their own different ways. And the same way with the male characters that I have in here. They're going to be real. They're going to be relatable to certain people and not to everyone. And they're going to be impressive. Same with the female characters. It's going to be impressive. Guess what? The characters in my story, it's no longer female, male. They're all just regular characters, but it's going to be so well written that you're going to read it. You're going to be like, damn, man, these are some really well written female characters. And it's like, I wish I saw stuff in movies more. I wish I saw this stuff in TV shows more, because I don't. And it kind of annoys me, but now I'm able to create my own things. So I'm going to throw them in, and it's going to be really good. At least I hope so. It might not